From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
And then today we kind of thought we were okay, and then all heck broke loose again, and it was deja vu. It was pretty scary because it was coming fast.
Picking up the pieces again, what a non-profit horse ranch is doing to stay above the floodwaters, and fixing the freeze, what the city of Red Lodge is doing to warm up pipes in Airbnbs. And a possible kidnapping stopped by police, what Billings law enforcement had to do to end a chase through the city yesterday. Good morning and welcome to Montana This Morning on this Friday, February 28th. I'm Augusta McDonnell here with Miller Robson.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back, Augusta.
Happy to be back. Happy to be back. I feel like I'm submerged in water. That weird, like when your sinuses are so weird. Yeah.
Well, it's good to have you back.
But it's good to be back, yes, and I missed you all. And of course, the weather has really shifted. It's gorgeous. We're looking at a gorgeous weekend.
Absolutely. Plenty of opportunity to get outside and get a little bit of that vitamin D, that sunshine. Just a really nice weekend on the way as those temperatures stay above normal. Yesterday, a good 13 degrees above average, hitting that 56, about 12 degrees above the norm with that 34. It was a windy day yesterday. Won't be as windy today. We did have gusts over 40 miles an hour yesterday. Still could see breezes over 30 miles an hour, especially around the western foothills. We're still seeing some stronger winds up there around Williston. For our friends up there watching in North Dakota, where we could still have gusts around 50 miles an hour this morning. That's why a wind advisory is in effect for your area. Of course, it's been dry out there with no new fresh snow or rain. Moisture totals for the month and for the year in fantastic shape, and the snow totals looking good as well. Now, we're pretty dry out there, but we could see some changes as we get into the first part of next week, along with maybe a cool down heading our way too. Models are pretty much in agreement on that. 44 right now at the airport. Feels like, 44. They're pretty good. Humidity at 45%. Dew point temperatures at 24 degrees. Winds out in the northeast at about 3 miles an hour. Temperatures 30s and 40s this morning. A little bit of rain off to our northeast. That will start to go away as high pressure continues to dominate to keep conditions dry through the weekend before the changes early part of next week. And we'll take a look at those changes coming up.
All right, Miller, thanks for tracking those
details.
Okay over
there? You're hanging in there, poor thing.
I'm doing all right. We're doing all right.
And then tickle like a baby when they burp them. Come here, Augusta.
Oh my gosh, you're the worst, Miller. You're the worst. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you all for your patience as we get through this news.
We are glad you're back, though.
Thank you. I missed you all. I'm happy to be back. And off the top in our headlines this morning, for a longtime Billings nonprofit, Angel Horses once again experienced substantial flooding on their property this week. This is the second time that's happened in less than 2 years. Our David J. has this.
The flooding at one time had the water coming up right here to the bottom of this trailer. There's also all over this driveway as you head all the way out to the road. Then you have these pumps out here that manage to get the water flowing out that way toward the field.
The water flows away from Johnny Jonkowski's home and horse stables.
Less than an hour ago, it was literally cresting over the fence, and it filled up the complete yard.
Friends came out to help Wednesday night, and sandbags kept water away from the home that was rebuilt 2 years ago after a flood. Jonkowski is the founder of Angel Horses, which uses horses to comfort people therapeutically.
They're an amazing animal. They're a lot like dogs. They're extremely sensitive. They're very keen to people that are, struggling.
This is just the latest to hit the organization. Angel Horses was scammed out of $70,000 in the fall, and in 2023, flooding caused hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. Understandably, this time at noon, Jonkowski was not optimistic about her 28-year-old nonprofit.
I just almost threw in the towel. I thought we were just a finger in a dike that wasn't going to hold. It was just insane how fast it came. It was just raging.
On Thursday, the warmer weather thawed more of the snow.
About 45 minutes ago, the driveway was completely underwater.
But luckily, plenty of help arrived to keep the home from being damaged.
So it's coming in quicker than they could get it out. So we just, another pump to up the power.
This go around, when we first got here, there was so much snow buildup in their ditches that the water had nowhere to go. And all the water was just flowing from the north.
Now they say with the pumps, the property may be safe from any more flooding by Saturday.
We escaped the bad bullet. Thank goodness. God's good. It's really good. I couldn't take another disaster.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
The warmer weather is causing issues elsewhere as well, especially in low-lying areas. This is out in Shepherd on Eagle Bend Boulevard near the bank of the Yellowstone River. Standing water is making farmland look more like a pond, and they're far from alone as flood advisories and watches remain in effect for several areas. And of course, it was just 1 week ago we were dealing with Arctic temperatures and the problems that come with that. Now, spring-like temperatures are hovering around 60 degrees, a far cry from 20 below zero that we saw last week. The warm-up is causing problems, of course, for homes that are not always in use. As our Haley Monaco found out, the impact of that cold snap still being felt in Red Lodge, a town filled with Airbnbs.
This house has frozen pipes, and currently there are specialists inside pushing a small tube through the pipes right below me here to try and break through that ice. Spencer Stone spent his Thursday underground.
You never know where that ice plug is.
In the crawl space of this Airbnb, Stone is actively pushing a 1/4-inch tube down the water service line.
Right now it's warm water through this pipe down to the end of my nozzle, and then the cold water is coming back here and going back into the machine and recirculating. And so this process then just is slowly heating up the copper pipe and melting that ice plug.
Stone has multiple jobs in Red Lodge this week. Even with the warming temps, the problems still persist.
The frost gets pushed into the ground by vehicles driving over these roads and driveways and stuff. And even though it's nice outside, the constant traffic is pushing that frost further down in the earth, and that's why they start freezing.
I've got 5 reports of frozen service lines. One of them was on a city building, so 4 in the general public that I'm aware of.
Red Lodge Public Works Director Mike Maples says this isn't an unusual number for this time of year, but it is helpful to have Stone's assistance with his machine that can thaw out frozen lines.
If you can't deal with it and you have to rely on Mother Nature, it might take another month or so to thaw out, or 2.
While the property Stone was at was an Airbnb, the same tips apply to everyone.
Keep your water running a little bit and it will not freeze most likely.
People think, oh, it's 40 degrees outside. We're going to go ahead and shut off our water. We don't have to worry about our house freezing. And then the underground lines freeze.
After about 2 hours, Stone was able to break through the ice and get water restored to the home.
When we know we're through is that this will now have city water pressure in it. And so the city water pressure will now suddenly be pushing this black hose out at me. And there's no stopping it.
In Red Lodge, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
Haley, thanks so much. And one man is behind bars and a young girl safe this morning after a potential kidnapping and pursuit led to some very scary moments across Billings yesterday. Billings police say on social media that officers were investigating a temporary restraining order violation and potential kidnapping when they located the suspect's vehicle near Senior High. The driver fled, leading to a lengthy chase spanning across the West End. This even saw several pedestrians jumping out of the way to avoid being hit. The vehicle was eventually disabled by officers at Lewis and 30th Street West. 37-year-old Anthony Humphrey was then taken into custody. Officers also safely removed an 8-year-old girl from the car. Humphrey is facing several charges, including criminal endangerment, assault on a peace officer, and fleeing or eluding a peace officer. Will James Middle School was placed on secure status as a precaution. That was lifted after Humphrey's arrest. Anyone impacted by this incident is asked to call the Billings Police Department and speak with the lead investigating officer. And in statewide news, the state of Montana has renewed the medical license of a Helena doctor accused of harming patients and even giving chemotherapy to patients who didn't have cancer. The Montana Board of Medical Examiners this week renewed the license of Dr. Tom Weiner for another 2 years. This despite the fact that Weiner was fired from St. Peter's Hospital in 2020 following numerous complaints, which included overprescribing narcotics and in one case treating a patient for 11 years with chemotherapy for a cancer he never had. That patient eventually died from poisoning related to the chemo. After Weiner was fired, he sued the hospital for wrongful termination and defamation. He maintains his innocence. And the Wyoming legislature has approved a bill that will create a new driver's license and state ID for those who are in the country legally but not a U.S. citizen. The current marking on those cards reads NR for non-resident and is listed on the front of the cards. The new ones, if approved by Governor Mark Gordon, will state not a U.S. citizen and be printed on the back of the cards. Lawmakers say the purpose of the bill is to make it clear for election judges or law enforcement officers when they encounter one of these individuals. This is just one of a dozen bills brought forth at this year's session as an attempt to curb illegal immigration. And in national news this morning, the pathway to peace in Europe runs through 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. President Donald Trump will soon sit down with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the now 3-year-long war between Russia and Ukraine. The two are expected to sign a minerals deal, despite a recent public war of words. CBS's Jared Hill has more from New York.
Working to end a war. Today, President Donald Trump is set to host Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House.
We're going to get along really well.
But the path to peace is unclear, with Trump refusing to offer solid security guarantees to Ukraine to fend off any future Russian invasion, instead presenting his own form of protection, a U.S. presence in the country to mine for rare minerals. Today's face-to-face comes after the two have traded insults over the past few weeks, with President Trump at one point calling Zelensky a dictator.
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that.
It's the latest in a revolving door of world leaders at the White House. Yesterday, with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, President Trump insisted Russia's Vladimir Putin would honor a peace deal, but he again held back on security specifics, despite Starmer's efforts.
The UK is ready to put boots on the ground and planes in the air to support a deal.
Not far from the White House, fired USAID workers were greeted with applause as they cleared out their offices. DOGE also terminated hundreds at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, including weather forecasters. But there is relief for some of the recently terminated probationary employees. A federal judge ruled those mass firings likely illegal, ordering a partial pause for the White House. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Yesterday's ruling out of San Francisco only covers a handful of agencies, including the Department of Defense. It remains to be seen what it may mean for workers who've already been terminated. But it's a temporary victory for labor unions.